Hey everybody, it's Alex from Heavy New York. We are back at the Last Rites Gallery and Tattoo Parlor. Huge shout out to Paul Booth. And today we are here with Hváll of Vreid. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for having me here.
Yep, did I get it right this time?
Yeah, pretty close. Yeah, it was good.
Awesome. But it's so great to have you here. Your latest album is Lifehunger. Do you just have like a conclusion on this record cycle thus far?
Yeah, it's been a very good cycle for us so far. The album was out, and then we did a Norwegian tour with Enslaved, well-attended shows up there, and then we started a European tour with Kalma. So we traveled all across Europe in December, and now ready to hit the States with the same package, And I think with this album, it's become one of our strongest albums so far. We did a lot of different things with this album than the previous ones. So yeah. Right now, everyone's in a good mood, I guess.
Yeah, everybody's happy because it's your first North American tour in what, 7 years or something?
Yeah, 6 or 7 years, something like that. So it's been a while, absolutely.
That's incredible. Now, what I was curious about is you mentioned with this album you kind of did things that were a little different than your previous records. So, do you enter the studio with like a preconceived idea of what you want to do, or do you like to kind of improvise and let things happen organically?
Oh, it's very much planned. I write all of the musical lyrics myself, so I sit down and work with that. Basically, I start writing the songs, and then I include a drummer, and then we kind of make demos out of the songs. So it's pretty much decided before we enter the studio how the songs are going to turn out. But this time we spent more time as a band as well in studio, and that kind of give those little edges, a bit of more uncertainty, changes, and allow things to breathe a bit more. And with this album, I think it made it come more alive and sound maybe more like a live album in that sense.
Definitely. I thought that this record was both very atmospheric but also very technical at the same time. I think you had the best of both worlds with it.
Yeah, for me, I always focus on atmosphere, and I don't think about techniques or whatever when we record music. I don't care about those things, but of course they are part of what we do. We like to just have a natural flow and see where it goes.
Definitely. Now, being a songwriter, and I've always liked having this discussion because songwriting is a completely different talent and just a different process than knowing how to play your instruments. So when it comes to writing music versus just playing it, when you are in the studio in songwriting mode versus playing live and executing it live, how different of an experience is it?
I would say for me it's all about songwriting. I think just you look at playing an instrument as something that I have to do to perform my music. In that sense, if it wouldn't have been for my own music, I don't think I would have played an instrument. I never mind picking up an instrument to sit and play other songs. I don't really care about that at all. For me, it's just about the writing process. That's what I focus on 100%. That said, when the songs are ready and go to tour, I love to play the shows, but that's more about the ritual, the atmosphere, and the whole aspect of doing these shows, not me playing bass or this playing guitar. I think that's just the technical part of what you do, but it has got nothing to do with the intention of making the songs. And for me, it's making the song that is the magic of it, and then be able to see the energy and reaction of people when you play it. That's something special.
Yeah, because there's plenty of musicians, they could play a guitar solo front to back, no problem, but can you write a song? Can you arrange composition and make an experience of your own that you share with people?
I think it's two completely different worlds. I think with our lead guitarist, he's the best guitarist ever. We can play wherever we want. Play some Malmsteen, play some Satriani, play whatever, and can do it whenever he wants. He doesn't enjoy writing music. He's very good about writing guitar leads and adapting and making the things that I can't do with the guitar. He can create that. I have no chance of doing the solos or anything like that, so he can add that flavor to it, but he doesn't like to write music. I love to do that, and I think every band needs a bit of both things. I think that you need the skills of musicians, and for our music especially, you need a very solid, good drummer, and you need guitarists that are able to give it that kind of flavor that it needs.
Of course. Now, you mentioned you also write the lyrics. Do you need to hear music to come up with lyrics, or so you sometimes have like a subject matter in mind, and then that could determine the composition?
Absolutely. I keep writing lyrics all the time, or little lines here and there. So it's whenever I start, I always make the music first, and then I kind of have some lines and ideas of how I want it to evolve. But most of the times I have a certain aspect of how I want the songs to turn out lyric-wise, So I have an idea, a concept, you may say, even if it's not like a direct concept. It's always a structure and how I want these lyrics to be. But it's not like I feel something about this song and then it's about whatever, you know. It's like, for me, I have my black and white vision of the life and world, and that's what I like to write about all the time.
Which is interesting, but I gotta imagine that nothing could be more heartbreaking than writing like the perfect chorus or the perfect verse, and then it being one syllable over like the arrangements.
Yeah. Then you have to cheer a little bit, you know.
Yeah.
You always so there's always that feeling that, you know, this line is perfect, but it doesn't really work out. You don't get a rhythm, and then I throw it away, you know, because at the end of the day, it's all about how it sounds, you know. And if it's the perfect lyric line, but then you can't pronounce it right, it doesn't really sit, it doesn't feel well with the song, then in the bin it goes.
Yeah. Now, do you try to leave your lyrics open to interpretation, or are you trying to maybe inform a listener or maybe enlighten them on some from what your point of view would be?
I don't think I try to enlighten anyone, you know. I think that I just write what I want to write, and I think that trying to believe that I can educate or enlighten anyone is a foolish idea. I think that's something that's should stick in the world of stupid politicians and religion. You know, it's like I don't feel any. I have no explanation of what people should do, but I write my feelings, my thoughts, my approach, and if people appreciate it and find something good, destructive, or whatever in the lyrics, I think that's fantastic, you know. If you can touch someone with your words and music, I think that's very special, but I don't have the idea that I can change or make something special, you know. I think that having that kind of approach to writing or inspire people makes it's wrong.
Yeah. Now, if a fan, because like I've known plenty of people who listen to your music and they are very intrigued by it. I think it was somebody told me, I think they saw you on 70,000 Tons of Metal in 2017.
Yeah.
And they said like, I never heard of this band and it really spoke to me. If somebody tells you their perception or the emotional experience they had with your music, can that maybe change your perception on your own art as well?
Yes, absolutely. I think it's always interesting to discuss with like journalists or fans or whoever listen to our music and hear their approach. They might think that they have some points with the lyrics or music that I didn't think of at all, you know, and that makes me think it's different, might even feel different when I listen to the music. So kind of getting those reaction back is very important, and it's the same thing when you read the reviews or whatever. Of course, you can't put too much into it to feel like very good or devastated when you get good or bad reviews. That's not really constructive. I don't think it's very healthy for anyone to look at it in that sense. But then again, it's very interesting to see if you can see that 90% of the reviews judge something that way. Maybe then some of the music or lyrics are a bit different than you thought it to be, you know. It's at least the general impression of that. So the reactions is always what makes albums, you know, stay alive and make them interesting, you know. And even now when I get to talk to people that pick up songs that I wrote like 15 or 20 years ago and have a complete different angle on it when my intention was, I think that, you know, kind of refreshes my own interest in our own music.
Yeah, and it's really amazing when it's one thing to make art, but it's a completely different experience when you're sharing it with somebody and letting them take it into their own emotional aspect. I've always thought that was one of the most amazing things about just a live performance in general. You know, it's different listening to it on your headphones versus, you know, seeing them execute this live.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I just had a feeling yesterday. I went to the KISS show here at Madison Square Garden, and I brought my children with me, and you know, they've started to listen to a lot of rock music, you know. I can notice that, and of course I can see it's the classics, you know, the hits that are generating their interest, but when they go to a show, you can see that there's so many of the songs that they didn't pay attention to before the show that really gets them going, you know. And it's for the KISS show, it's not just about rock and roll all night or I Was Made for Loving You, know. When they can see Gene Simmons being raised up to the roof and singing God of Thunder, you know, it's like it does something with you, and that's something that you might not get to experience just listening to the song. But when you see shows like that, you can get this. I can see this face filled with expectations, you know. And I think that's what live music is all about.
Absolutely, and you can't you can't recreate that with anything. Sure, we may not have CDs utilized as much anymore, but like nothing could take away from having a sweaty guy screaming next to you at a show and
Absolutely.
Feeling the pyro just.
Yeah, and I think that's been some of the things we've been missing with some of the shows we did in the States like 7, 8 or 9 years ago. We had some really good shows there, especially New York, Brooklyn, Chicago and LA. We had fantastic shows, Montreal in Canada. And I think the audience here is very dedicated, In Norway, it's they're interested, but not that dedicated at the shows, They have harder to show their emotions or feelings, so to speak. But here it's more like playing in France or Spain or south of Europe, People are really into the music and putting all the energy, the screaming, the sweat and the intention. I think that's, of course, that's something that you as a performer want to have on stage,
Yeah.
You don't want people to stand like this and say, yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
That's not what you're seeking.
Funny what you said about Norway, because I interviewed Maurizio from Cataclysm one time, and he says when you're playing in Sweden, sure, a lot of bands are from there, it's a metal capital, but when you're playing there, you're playing to pretty much other band members or stuff like that. And I guess maybe people are a little jaded or something like that, so...
Yeah, and also I think it's got to do with how we are as people, We are more reluctant, we are more kind of introverted, and we don't like to explode at the same way as we experience at the good shows here in the States or Southern Europe, or I think maybe like in Mexico or South America, when people have such a fire in dedication. But as an artist, I'm pretty much sure that everyone wants that kind of dedication.
Absolutely. And I have 2 more questions for you. You mentioned with your lyrics you have a very black and white point of view on the earth. Are you looking internally for this lyrical subject matter, or does this come from an external source from maybe something you've experienced?
That's a good question. I think, of course, it goes internally and how I feel about things, but I use external sources to get inspired, or these events happen, things that happen in your daily life. That's kind of, you see how things changes quickly and how things, evolve, and you have your life change, good people close to you die, and you have to see your own children grow up, and all these kind of phases you go through life. This inspires me in many ways, and besides that, of course, history. I'm very inspired by history because there's so many things to look into to just see how the world has changed so much in so many years. Just being here in New York, it's like I was walking over the Brooklyn Bridge, and I think you see this Manhattan, this big thing, and that everyone wants to go and see once in their life or whatever, and think, of course, it's spectacular and fantastic. But if you just think it's just a couple of 100 years old. When we go in Europe, if I go to Rome or the bigger cities, been there for thousands of years, and then I think that if you're a small child today, then you think that this has always been there, and this is how it's always been, but it's fresh, The city of New York is just a couple of 100 years as we know it, Of course, it's a bit older than that, but so kind of to see how much thing changes in a small amount of time, that inspires me a lot. And look back to history, and that's always a good comfort, I think, when you think that maybe the modern world has gone off its tracks, and it's how crazy things can be. You can see that all this is just a little fragment, a little part of history. It's not certain it's going to be this forever.
Yeah, the only constant in life is change, and while maybe we could be having our own experience right now, God knows what's happening in the world around us and how our interpretation of it can affect us. And the final question I would like to ask you is, and I either get the shortest answer for this or it usually ends up being the longest answer. How do you know when a song is finished?
It's never finished.
Just abandoned?
Yeah.
You want to end it at that?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a good end, I think.
Yeah. But I want to thank you so much for your time. Just obviously you're heading on the road with Kalma. Is there just anything else that you would like to promote with the band in terms of other tours or new music? I think you have some festivals coming up.
Well, you're straight after this tour, we're heading to Mexico to do our first show over there at a big festival in Mexico City, and going to perform with bands like Kiss and Alice Cooper and stuff like that. So it's going to be massive, and really look forward to that. And then we're going to do some Norwegian festivals, and the plan is to keep touring for at least another year with this album, and then head back to studio again. That's the way life goes.
Awesome. The never-ending cycle.
Absolutely.
Maybe that's the only thing that doesn't change.
Yeah. I hope so.
Exactly. Well, Thank you so much for your
Thanks
time.
a lot. Thanks a lot.
Everybody, we are here with Vreid. Be sure to pick up Lifehunger if you haven't already and catch them on their tour with Kalma. We'll see you next time on Heavy New York, everybody.